Oh, thank you for asking me. Okay, got it.
All right. I think we're going.
Okay.
Yes. Hello, friends. I'm here.
Oh, thank you for asking me.
Oh, you know what? This happened. Just a sec. Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's doing that feedback thing a little bit, right?
All right. Sorry. I'm just okay. Now we're good to go. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, here we are. I am here with my good friend, Krisanne Knudsen, who is an extraordinary art historian and educator. Krisanne, tell us about your project you're doing right now, which I love.
Yeah. So I am the education coordinator for Roots of Knowledge, which is this giant stained glass art installation that's located at UVU in their library. It's like 80 windows, and it tells the history of human learning, like how humans have learned throughout time in the realms of math, science, art, music, religion, politics, like everything. And it's just really astounding. So my job as education coordinator is to develop programming for kids who come into the space. So right now we have K-6 coming through, and we do a really fun tour with them, and we do art making activities with them. And then next year we'll be launching a program for secondary students. So like middle school, high school. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So it's going to be fun. Yeah. Yeah.
And so for those of us who aren't with a tour group or a school, can we come see the exhibit
Yes.
during operating hours?
Yeah. So it's open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Basically, as long as the library is open, the
Okay.
Roots of Knowledge Gallery is open. We also have guided tours every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. So if you just drop in at 2 p.m. on any of those days, there will be somebody there to give a guided tour, as well as 7 p.m. on Friday evenings.
Nice.
And then you can also, if you have like a church group, or like a retirement home group, and you want to come have a special tour, you can call us and we can schedule something for you.
That's such a great idea.
Yeah.
Or like a girls' night.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Or like, what about if it's summer and we want to drop in at 2 p.m. because it's so hot? I think we all need to come, actually.
Yes, it's really beautiful. Yeah. And if you come like in the like sort of dusk hour, that's I think when it's prettiest, when the light's coming through those windows. It's really, really pretty.
Okay. We're all
Okay.
coming.
Okay.
That sounds phenomenal. Well, amazing work. And I just can't like emphasize enough how much I admire you, Krisanne. You are so good at what you do. So thanks for sharing your object with us tonight, your mystery object, and I'm sharing mine. Okay, but don't look yet. Okay, here it is.
Okay.
So, can you see? This is Krisanne's object first. And I haven't really seen this before. And Krisanne, one thing you should know is she brings the best weird contemporary art. She's a master. She knows all about contemporary art, and I think that's intimidating to people, but I love having Krisanne show us the way when it comes to modern art. Okay, so the reason we do mystery object is I bring an object for Krisanne, she brings one for me, and we haven't seen each other's objects, but the whole point is for us to come in blind and kind of share how we think about objects we don't know, so that maybe when everyone else is going to a museum and they feel like they don't know what they're saying, they can actually have some strategies. So I'm looking at this object, and it's nice that this is an actual human, yes, Krisanne? Like to scale?
The lady sitting on the, yes.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if you were talking about the human.
Yes, 2 humans. One is a living being. So the art object is this reclining figure.
Yes.
So, okay. So when I'm looking at an object, I like to like do a visual breakdown and just like really look carefully. And you can't, I mean, what's the number one thing I notice is this human is got to be like huge. So we have a large sculpture made to look like a human figure and it's like so lifelike. And I'm trying to like even guess what the material is. Is it like actual fabric for the bedspread and the pillow? I don't know. But the actual figure, I wonder if that's like some kind of plastic or resin or something. But her features are a little like she looks drained and a little gaunt. But there's an expression of kind of maybe hopelessness or overwhelm or all the female exhaustion feelings that I'm feeling from this particular woman. So, and I'm just dying to like walk around her because it just seems like this artist has totally given all the attention to this particular figure in her life phase, on this incredibly large scale. So that's my visual breakdown. And you'll have to fill us in a little. Let me cobble together. The next step I always do when I'm looking at a figure is just try to like gather up any kind of context I may have about this. And I wonder, I mean, I know this has got to be, I mean, I would even guess like 1990s or 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And what I know about art from this time is that, I mean, we've seen modern art go to total abstraction and really depart from showing naturalistic figures. But I feel like once we, in art history, moved beyond into the 1970s and 80s with like Andy Warhol and this return to naturalism, but in a way that almost feels like super real. So to me, looking at this piece of contemporary art feels very accessible. I'm kind of like, yes, I know this.
Yeah.
But on a huge scale, it feels, anyway.
I agree. It does feel accessible. Yes. Yes.
But I don't know a lot about this artist or like exactly where he's getting at. So that's where I'm left wishing for a phenomenal art educator to fill me in on the rest.
Okay. Well, I'm not an expert on this artist, but this is what I know. So his name is Ron Muick, and he's Australian, although I think he has spent quite a bit of his life in England. And he is the son of toy makers.
Oh.
And then he himself, for much of his life, was a puppeteer. So his job was to build puppets. So he has this like exquisite ability to form or to render detail, like human detail. So I don't think this image actually does this piece justice. So if anybody who's watching this,
and
if
I
you
have
go
this.
on, that's a little bit better. Yeah. If you go online and enter in just Ron Muick, I think it's Mueck, you can see these images of his sculptures and the detail, like the pores, like you can see the pores of the skin and the whiskers on the men, and like just like the fingernails and the way that she's pressing her fingers into the side of her face, like those indentations are just so realistic. And it reminded me a little bit of like, is it Bernini? Is that the sculptor who's just so brilliant at like making stone look like flesh?
Yes.
That is how I feel about him. Just and like you were saying, Becca, the hyper realism. And the other thing that I really love about this piece in particular is that it's scale. Like he plays with scale a lot. He has a lot of really gigantic humans, but he also has tiny humans too.
Really?
So, and I think it's really playful, but I also love the fact that like most really large sculptures can have sort of an imposing or an intimidating or sort of this like grandeur, like this, like a king or a queen or like a military hero. All of these really big sculptures have that sort of essence to them. Where with Ron Mueck's sculptures, there's like this vulnerability and this intimacy to it that is not common for large sculptures of humans. And I love that about this piece. And I feel like all of his pieces are asking you as the viewer to engage on a very human, intimate way. And that comes back to that idea of accessibility, right? Like there is a lot of contemporary art where you just approach it and it's like, what the heck? I have no idea what's going on here. I have no context. But you approach something like this, and I've seen some of his works in real life, you approach it, and of course, like the size is sort of a little bit like startling, but then like you move around it and you look in the face of that sculpture and there's a human connection there. And that vulnerability. And I picked this one in particular because this, as a middle-aged woman,
Yes, I'm
a middle-aged woman. How many times have I been in bed like this with my face like this, thinking about my kids and like, am my parenting okay? Like, what am I doing with my life? Should I go back to work? Should I continue being a stay-at-home mom? Like this moment, I've had this moment so many times in my life as a middle-aged mother.
Yes.
And I could really relate to that emotionally too. Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
so yeah.
And I love that. I mean, just the choice of this moment feels like he was just able to see something that is true.
Right.
That feels like truth. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that he doesn't really give us a story about this, but he lets us create our own story around it. And in that way, I think it also makes it really personal, because like for me, I can apply her experience to my life, and somebody else who has a different experience looks at this and has an entirely different narrative to place on that. But that's fine. Like that, I think that's what he's encouraging us viewers. Yeah.
Oh, that's so powerful. Oh my goodness. I love this. Well, thank you for sharing this fantastic object.
Yes.
Is like me many times, but enlarged to be, I don't know, 30 feet. Who knows how big the woman is.
Giant. Oh, and you asked about the materials. I looked up at the materials. Most of it is like silicone, some polyester, and resin. Like those are his main materials that he uses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. An amazing history too.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Kind of born to do something, but didn't probably know exactly what that was until he came to this. That is really fascinating. Oh, good one. Okay. You ready for mine?
Yeah.
All right. Have you seen this before?
No.
Okay.
Is this contemporary? This looks contemporary.
This particular one is dated 18th, 19th century.
Really? Okay. So my immediate thought is this looks like some sort of like a Polynesian or an islander or some sort of like artwork from that realm. And I don't know if that's correct, but there's something about the textures and the shapes that are reminding me of that. So I'm seeing like a lot of fabric, I think that is, around his neck. Like it looks like he's wearing some kind of cloak or shawl. And it almost looks like nails in his hands and his feet. And then in his back, and then around his waist, it looks like rope. And then the piece itself looks like it could be carved out of wood, but the head doesn't totally look like wood. And my brain is going to coconut because I'm thinking of islands again, but I don't know if that is what like that material is, like a coconut shell or something like that. The eyes are blank, like the eyes are looking upwards, the head is tilted upwards, and the eyes look like coins or something. And what else am I noticing? I'm just fascinated by all of the material. that's included in this piece. Is this a religious piece or no?
In a way,
Okay.
yes, in a way.
Because of course, like the nails and the hands and the feet like immediately bring me to like a Christ figure. But then again, he's got nails kind of along his back as well. Is he supposed to be like a leader, like some kind of like a king or some kind of leader of a group? Because the like the shawl or whatever, like the cape that he's wearing feels decorative in the way that like a king or some kind of ruler or emperor would wear. This is so good, Becca. I'm honestly like I would not have guessed that this was 18th, 19th century. I would have said, oh, this is like a contemporary artist.
For sure.
Maybe like borrowing or like applying some more traditional like traditional art forms to a contemporary piece. So what can you tell me about this?
So it's from what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Okay.
And
so it's African.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's part of a tradition. These are known as power figures.
Okay.
Or they're called Minkisi, which are, like you're saying, kind of a spiritual, but kind of an authority figure. The figure itself, kind of a conduit to God or to spirit, I guess is the more correct term. So these power figures would have cavities in their stomach, where their stomach is, and in their head, where then people in the group or in the society would insert medicinal herbs or earth or some kind of healing material. And in some contexts, these figures would be made to be like figures that would heal or figures that would protect. But this particular figure is known as a Minkizi Nkandi, which is a justice figure. So this would be present when anyone had a kind of legal disagreement that needed to be sorted out. And so they would have the kind of the spiritual connection through the medicinal material, but then, and it's cool, like the eyes have mirrors in them.
Oh, so that's why I was thinking coins. Yeah.
Right, because it's so reflective. And then the teeth have cut glass. It's very sharp, which is kind of spectacular. But then they would, and I've read different accounts about the nails. Some, and I actually saw one of these when I was in New York last week.
Oh my gosh.
And in that particular Mikizi Kandi, they said it was the nails activated the spirit to then kind of be present during the legal conversations. Other accounts I've read said that they'd put a nail in when the legal agreement was reconciled as an end, or like to like finalize. So I'm not sure exactly. And I imagine it's kind of like a dialect, like how this was used exactly.
Interesting. So the nails are added over time. It's not like they're all
time. Yeah.
And how, like, what's the size compared to like an average size human?
So the one I saw was probably like 3 feet. I think this is more like 5 feet. In particular. And this one is in LA at the Fowler Museum that has a spectacular African collection. But this one, so fascinatingly, these were a mainstay among these people who lived in this region. And they came with them when they were enslaved.
Like they brought them with, they brought the actual sculptures with them
to use them as, and in one article I read, according to the article, they are part of certain communities in the Deep South still have a certain type of these figures.
Really?
But it had a very sacred meaning.
Oh.
And this is the actual figures context was changed through movies in Hollywood to be what we think of as a voodoo doll.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what right before you said that, I was like, oh, like a voodoo doll. Like
Yeah.
that's the image. Oh my
But
God.
it was never used in that way. But you think of like
Right.
the movie stereotype of the New
Yeah.
Orleans Creole religion.
Yes.
Yeah. But it was kind of just taken lightly from this very much more rich tradition.
Oh, I love that history. That is so interesting.
I know. And even more interesting was, so those who came to enslave these Africans saw the power that these figures had in the communities, and they took them all and hid them. And in this article I read, it said that the people who owned them somehow got them back and took what they had assigned the spiritual responsibilities of these figures away, and then released them to the to the enslavers.
Really?
They had totally lost their spiritual
Right.
significance to the people. So
Right.
it was kind of this way, if they couldn't have their own personhood, at least they could
Right.
like release this power in their community
Right. Exactly.
to their enslavers.
Do you happen to have that article on hand? Would you mind sending that to me if you have
I would,
it?
yeah, sure. It's fascinating. I know these objects are cool. They're
So
really
cool.
amazing. Yeah.
One quick question. What is there any significance to the material, like the rope around the waist or like the fabric on the
This is a very spectacular, this one in particular
okay.
has more texture than any that I've
Okay.
seen. And I don't know. I mean, you can see how the nails were added, but also maybe the strips of fabric had their own significance. And
Yeah.
the rope, I mean, it just feels like
Yeah.
this is something that has been added to over time, but I'm not exactly sure. The
I
one I
love
saw
this.
only had the nails,
Yeah.
but to me, it really drew me in because of the fact that they put special religious materials inside, like a reliquary.
Yeah.
And that gave
Exactly.
it kind of the connection to the spirit
Yeah.
world beyond the object.
Yeah.
So
So
anyway,
cool. Thank you. I
thank
mean,
you.
I've been studying art history for 20 years and I never knew about this. So it's so exciting to just
Well, ditto.
have something totally new. That's so great. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to go see one of these someday together.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for always bringing the contemporary art to us, Krisanne. We need you.
I'm always here for that.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Thank you so much. I love